Okay, hey ladies and gentlemen, this is Miss Hum right here, and we're going to be doing Unit 6 Notes 2. So we're going to review the Pythagorean Theorem. We were using it a little bit before, and now we're going to go back and kind of look at it, and also look at some of its converses and what that can tell us. So let's start by just talking about what the Pythagorean Theorem is. So remember, the Pythagorean Theorem is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Now it is important that you square those. It will change the value of the problems if you don't. So notice that a and b are the legs of our triangle, and C is going to be the hypotenuse. Now remember that the hypotenuse sits directly across from the right angle. So the hypotenuse is the line that does not touch the right angle at all. So we practice plugging them in, solving them. So let's just take a look at reviewing that. So for number 1, we want to take our two legs, which are 6 and 15. We're going to square them and add them together. Whoops. And that's going to be equal to our hypotenuse squared. Well, 6 squared is 36, 15 squared is 225, and that's equal to x squared. So now x squared is equal to the sum of these two, which is 261. So then we're going to take the square root of both sides, and we get that x is equal to 16.16. So that is for number 1. Next, let's take a look at number 2. Now what I notice on number 2 is it's my hypotenuse, is the value that I don't know again. So I'm going to take my two legs and I'm going to square them, and I'm going to set them equal to x squared. 7 squared is 49, 17 squared is 289, and x squared is just x squared. So then we get x squared is equal to 49 plus 289, which is 338. So now I want to go ahead and take the square root of both sides. The square root of 338 is 18.38. Next, let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 3. So for number 3, we want to go ahead and use that Pythagorean theorem. So what I notice now is that one of my legs is my unknown. So I have a leg and a leg, and I actually do know my hypotenuse. So I'm still going to plug it into the formula. I'm just going to solve it a little bit differently. So I don't know what x squared is. 9 squared is 81. 11 squared is 121. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to subtract 81 from both sides, and then I get 121 minus 81, which is going to give me 40. And then to figure out what x is, because I don't want to know what x squared is, to figure out what x is, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And then I get 6.32. So 6.32 is my final answer for number 3. Now let's talk about the Pythagorean triples. What is a Pythagorean triple? Okay, well, Pythagorean triple are 3 numbers that will always make a right triangle. So if we have 3, 4, 5. So if we just check that, we have 3 squared plus 4 squared. Is that equal to 5 squared? Well, we have 9 plus 16 is equal to 25, which ends up giving us 25 is equal to 25. So that works for each one of these. Now here's the cool thing about Pythagorean triples. Any multiple of a Pythagorean triple is also a Pythagorean triple. So we can take all those values and multiply them by 2, and multiply them by 3, and even multiply them by x. So for example, 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 2 is 8, 5 times 2 is 10. So 6, 8, 10 will form a right triangle. 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 3 is 12, 5 times 3 is 15. 9, 12, 15 will form a right triangle. Likewise, if we had a triangle with the side 3x, 4x, and 5x, that would always form a right triangle. Okay, that will form a right triangle. Same thing here. If we take 5 and multiply by 2, 5 times 2 is 10, 12 times 2 is 24, 13 times 2 is 26. That makes a right triangle. 5 times 3 is 15, 12 times 3 is 36, 13 times 3 is 39. That makes a right triangle. You can multiply by 4, you can multiply by 5. Anything you multiply by, as long as you multiply each of those by the same thing, it will work out. So then we have 5x, 12x, and 13x. Okay, so if whatever we pick for x, whatever multiplier we pick, that will work out to be a Pythagorean triple. So then for 7, for the multiples of 2, we have 14, 48, and 50. That will multiply to be a Pythagorean triple. You can multiply them by 3 and do 21, 72, and 75. Likewise, we can throw in that x multiplier. No matter what x is, as long as we multiply the same ones by the same value, it will form a right triangle. So let's take a look at this. So here's how we're going to use this in reverse. So if we're given three values and it says figure out if this is the right triangle, we've practiced this a little bit already. So if you add them up, if you take the two smaller sides, square them, and add it together, it should equal the third side. If that is true, then ABC is a right triangle. Okay, so then let's say you solve this out. You would take a squared plus b squared, and c is going to be smaller than those two sums. If the hypotenuse is smaller than the sum squared, then it's going to be an acute triangle. Then if you take and you have a squared plus b squared, and then you square your c, and c is larger than those two numbers squared, then that's going to make triangle ABC an obtuse triangle. Now remember, obtuse triangle, what that means you have one angle that's more than 90 degrees. An acute angle, all of your angles are below 90 degrees, and a right angle has exactly one angle that is 90 degrees. So let's go ahead and let's check the values of some of these. So let's start with number 5. So we want to figure out first if it's a triangle, then if it's acute, right, or obtuse. So let's start by figuring out if it's a triangle. So to figure out if it's a triangle, we're going to take the two smaller sides, so 7 plus 14, and make sure that their sum is larger than the third side. Well, 7 plus 14 is going to give me 21, and 21 is indeed bigger than 16. So I have a triangle. Now I need to figure out what kind of triangle. So I'm going to take my two smaller sides and square them, so 7 squared plus 14 squared, and see if that's larger than that hypotenuse squared. Well, 7 squared is 49. 14 squared is 196. Is that going to be equal to 256? Well, 49 plus 196 is 245. And that's going to be less than 256. So my two sums added are smaller than my hypotenuse. My hypotenuse is bigger. So that makes it an obtuse triangle because my hypotenuse is bigger. So yes, it's a triangle and it is obtuse. So let's take a look at this next one. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the two smaller sides and make sure it's bigger than the third side. Is 49 bigger than 41? Yes, so we at least have a triangle. So now we're going to try and square our two sides. We have 9 squared plus 49 squared. Is that going to be equal to 41 squared? I don't know. Let's find out. 9 squared is 81. Oops, sorry, this should be 40 squared because we're taken from this side here. 40 squared is going to be 1,600. And 41 squared is 1,681. Well, you add those two together and you end up getting 1,681 is equal to 1,681. So yes, they're equal, or yes, it's a triangle, and it is a right triangle. So let's take a look at letter C. So we're going to take the two smaller sides and add them together. Make sure it's larger than the hypotenuse. Well, you know what? It's not larger. It's equal to. In order for it to be a triangle, it has to be larger. So no, that is not a triangle at all. So we can't classify it because it's not even a triangle. Next, let's take a look at this problem right here. So we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So here are my legs. So I have x squared plus 8 squared is equal to x minus 5 squared. Now when you have x minus 5 squared, this is the one where you have to go through and use that box method that I talked about previously. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up x minus 5, because know that x minus 5 squared is the same as x minus 5 times x minus 5. So that's why I need to use that box method. So now I'm going to multiply into the box. X times x will always give you x squared. X times negative 5 will give you negative 5x. Negative 5 times x will give you negative 5x. Negative 5 times negative 5 will give you 25. So now I have x squared minus 5x plus 25. Now remember, that's going to equal this. So we have x squared and then 8 squared is, oh shoot, I'm so sorry, I did this backwards. X minus 5 squared is our leg. That is my fault, I'm sorry. So it's actually going to be 8 squared plus x minus 5 squared is equal to x squared. That was my fault. All right, so let's take a look now that we're back on track. So we can still use this, but we're going to plug it in here. So 8 squared is 64. So now I'm going to take all of this here. So I have x squared minus 5x plus 25 is equal to x squared. So now I need to do some simplifying. I want to get all of my x's on the same side. So let's simplify this down. So I have an x squared here. Negative 5x plus negative 5x, I can add that together to get negative 10x. 64 plus 25, that's going to give me 89. And that's equal to x squared. Well, I want to bring this x squared over to the other side. So since it's positive, I'm going to subtract x squared. That cancels those out. So I end up getting negative 10x plus 89 is equal to 0. Just because that side doesn't cancel out doesn't mean we lose our right side. That means our right side is equal to 0. So then we're going to subtract 89 from both sides. So I get negative 10x is equal to 89. Then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 10 so that I can solve for x, and I get x is equal to a positive 8.9. So that right there is your final answer for number 6. Next, let's take a look at number 7. We want to find the area and the perimeter. So we can actually calculate out the area right now, because we can calculate out first the area of the rectangle, which is going to be length times width, and the area of the triangle is 1/2 base times height. So we can just add those two areas together. So for the rectangle, we can do 15 times 12. So do 15 times 12 plus, now we can do the area of the triangle. 1/2 times our base times our height. So you can really plug all of this into your calculator as it is by using all of those numbers. When you multiply all of that out, you end up getting 222, and that's centimeters squared. Okay, so centimeters squared, because we're talking about area. Now, in order for us to get the perimeter, we need to figure out this side right here. So I'm going to use the fact that this is a triangle. Well, the side I'm missing is the hypotenuse of my right triangle. So I can take 7 squared plus 12 squared, and that's going to be equal to that side that I don't know. Well, 7 squared is 49, 12 squared is 144, and that's equal to x squared. 49 plus 144 is 193, and that's equal to x squared. So now to get x, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So I get x is equal to 13.89. So that's this value right here is 13.89. So now to get the perimeter, I'm going to add this, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this, and that'll give me my perimeter. So go ahead and try adding that up on your own, and when you add it up, you should get 122.89, and you want to make sure you label that centimeters. So that's for the perimeter. Okay, so there's your final answer for the perimeter. So that concludes your note video. Please show me your completed note sheet when you're done. Thanks for listening.